So while I was at this same studio, I got a call from an old art director friend from years earlier when I worked doing movie posters. Actually, the very first job I had in Los Angeles. And she was good friends with Matt Groening. I had met Matt Groening back in those days before The Simpsons. And Simpsons had just started as a half-hour series. And she called me up and they were looking for people to do artwork for merchandise. And she remembered that I had done like a cartoon style. And so she sort of recruited me, and I did a lot of Simpsons merchandise art, and then also started doing art for publishing, which Matt owned the rights to. So he was kind of controlling his own publishing with Simpsons books and a magazine. And so I started doing work for the magazine. We had a comic section in the mag, so I did the first Simpsons comic, which was a Krusty the Clown strip. And at the end of the second year, we did an annual issue, and we decided to make it just all comics. So it was the very first Simpsons comic book. We shrunk the format, so we made it actual comic book format. And that sold so well that it gave Matt the validation that people will buy Simpsons comics. I could build a company around this. So he started Bongo. I was just there at the beginning, so I was brought on as art director. And then Bongo was a success. You know, we did it for over 25 years. But that was the beginning.
Was it hard to climb out from under being that Simpsons guy?
Not really. One of the great things about working for Matt Groening is he gave us the freedom to do other things. So we weren't sort of locked into only having to do The Simpsons for a quarter century. He said, if anybody ever, another publisher asks you to do something, you know, as long as it's not long term and it doesn't interfere with your Bongo work, he said, feel free to do it. So because of the notoriety of the Simpsons comics, I made a lot of friends in the industry, and so was given the opportunity to do things for DC, Marvel, Dark Horse, Image, and it was great, you know. So I could take these little vacations away from the Simpsons and do something and then come back. So I don't think I ever really felt like I was sort of put in a box. And that's thanks to Matt. You know, I think he had the foresight to realize that in order to keep us enthused and interested and doing this for so many years, it would be necessary to give us the freedom to kind of do other things and sort of mix it up.
You, along those lines, you did, I know you did Roswell, and that was creator owned.
Yeah. Yes.
Can you tell me about your experiences? Like, was that a struggle? Was it financially, did it work out okay? Or, you know, just kind of the experience?
Financially, it was good because Bongo's page rates were really good. I think the main struggle was just coming up with the idea, because Matt put it out there. He said, if you want to do something of your own and pitch it to me, if it seems like something that I think Bongo could be successful with, we'll absolutely do it. And it probably took me the better part of a year to think up an idea. And it was always in the back of my mind, and I kept thinking, this is an incredible opportunity. And at one point I was like, man, you're blowing this. You got to come up with something that you can pitch to Matt, because this is like a really generous offer, you know. And he said it would be creator owned, and it was a really good deal. So finally I was reading a book on the Roswell UFO incident, and this was before the X-Files, so it wasn't like everybody was talking about the Roswell incident. It was something that people had sort of forgotten about. But I was reading this book, and at one point they talked about an alien who survived the crash. And an eyewitness said they saw it in the back of a medical van or something, and then didn't know what happened to it after that. And that was what sort of gave me the inspiration. I started thinking, well, what if there was an alien that survived, and, you know, what if he's trying to get back to his home planet, and he, you know, what kind of friends would he make that could help him do that. And so that was once I kind of got that germ of an idea, then it was pretty easy after that. The struggle really was I'm still doing all my bongo duties and also trying to do this comic, which I couldn't make it a monthly. It had to be a bi-monthly. And then Futurama came along, and Matt wanted me to work on developing that. And so I did 6 issues of Roswell, but then it's like I can't do 3 things. I can run bongo, edit all the bongo content, and I can help Matt with Futurama, developing it, but I can't do a 3rd thing. So I thought I've just got to let Roswell go, at least for a while. And it's been, 20 years, I guess. So I think in around 2012, I wanted to step away from what I was doing at Bongo, and Matt was talking about doing something new. So I thought I went and talked to his business manager, and I said I'd really like to be involved in the new thing that Matt's doing, and I'm maybe getting a little burnt out on editing the Simpsons comics. So I just wanted to find out about transitioning into this new thing that he's doing. And he was talking about doing a new comic book company, different from Bongo. And she said, that sounds great. You and Matt can start working on that. But in the meantime, we want to develop some comic reader apps for Simpsons and Futurama. So why don't you work on those while we're sort of waiting for Matt to figure out what he wants to do. So I spent a couple of years developing these apps to read all of Bongo's content on your smartphones, etc. And then the idea of doing a new comic book company kind of got backburnered, but Matt settled on this project for a new animated show, and that was Disenchantment. So he brought me over to just start working full-time as an art director and designer working on Disenchantment. So I worked on the whole first season, and it was somewhere in there that everything switched from Matt paying me to Netflix paying me. And when Netflix started paying me, the budget was a lot lower. So I started getting less money, and I was looking for things freelance-wise to just sort of fill in and make some extra money. So I reached out to DC Comics, among other publishers, and sent a message to Dan DiDio, and it turned out Dan had been looking for somebody to run Mad Magazine to take over, and I had no way of knowing that, so I wasn't like contacting him to get a job working on Mad. But he said, let's have lunch. So we met, and he's kind of laid out what the situation was with Matt, that they had a mandate from Warner Brothers to bring it to Burbank, and the guys in New York didn't want to move, so they needed somebody new. And he said, the minute I got your email, I thought you'd be the perfect person to do this. So that's how that happened. Well, I think working in comics is tough financially because it's a lot of work and it doesn't pay that well unless you're getting royalties and your work is wildly popular. So I think most people who work in comics do it because they love it. They just love the art form. And whenever I do comics, that's pretty much why I'm doing it. I'm just doing it because I love comics. And not that you don't make any money, but you can make a lot more in advertising. You can make a lot more doing artwork for consumer products and things like that. So that's where the money is. But comics are just like a labor of love.